Okay. I just skipped that first one because I'm going to screw that up. In this episode of The Full Nerd, Windows, 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 and cloud gaming. Welcome to The Full Nerd, episode 42, recorded on March 6th, 2018. I'm Gordon Ung, along with my co-host, Brad Charkis.
Hello, Internet.
Special guest, our in-house Windows Microsoft expert, Mark Hockman.
Hey, guys.
He does all of the Microsoft coverage at PCWorld. And, of course, Adam Patrick Murray controlling the vertical and horizontal.
Hey, Gordon. What's going on?
Which they don't have on televisions anymore.
What, verticals and horizontals?
They don't have that anymore.
No.
No, of course.
It's all just 3D planes.
Young people are like, what is that? Generation Z is like, they have no idea. They've never been. Yeah.
That's true. Well, didn't we read something that Generation Z doesn't want to be called Generation Z?
I know. Yeah. I think I heard also the story was they're considering also calling them iGeneration, but then I think Apple would sue everyone. And then the other one was calling the young people, I like this one. I don't even understand it. Homeland Generation.
What?
I don't understand that one at all. I don't know what that is.
Maybe they all really like the TV show?
It's a good show. It's a really good show. If you haven't seen it, Homeland is an awesome show.
Isn't that the one with Claire Danes?
And you know what? I will say, as a professional hardware reviewer, you're a hardware reviewer. Mark is also. We all review hardware.
Sure.
I understand reviewers. Screw those reviewers who review Homeland. They don't know what they're talking about.
Wait, who? Huh?
Because they don't have benchmarks. Oh. They don't have benchmarks. There's nothing defensible with reviewing stuff.
Nope.
See, I already took us off the rails. Adam. Yeah. You can't even do that. I did it on our own.
Kyrie, Kyrie? I don't know.
Kyrie Irving's here?
On YouTube. He says the vertical and horizontal, wasn't that from the Twilight Zone or Outer Limits?
Oh, they
Outer Limits.
Yeah. So we got somebody in the chat who knows their stuff. And just to remind everyone, we're going live on Twitch as well. Twitch.tv/PCWorld US. No spaces or anything. So you can watch us on YouTube, Facebook, Twitch, all at the same time.
Yes, increase our counts. And I think Twitch looks better, though, right?
Yeah.
So Twitch is,
the latency's better on Twitch. So if you want to get your hot takes into us quicker,
that's right.
You just go over to Twitch.
Right.
Oh, wow.
The emoji streams.
Yeah. Cool. Right. Well, what we got? What are we talking about today?
I was waiting for you to take us off the rails like you normally do, but no, not at all.
I let you do it now.
I want to get right into this. So, Mark, for
Windows.
people who don't know, Mark is our in-house Microsoft expert. He's been covering Microsoft hardware and software for a long time,
several years.
And we wanted to get him in here to talk about what is happening with Windows. I mean, we talk about hardware all the time, but honestly, 99% of us are running Windows operating system, which literally does control our vertical and horizontal. They got something new called Redstone 4 coming out. Mark's going to tell us about that. Besides it just being, is Redstone 3 already out, I guess?
Yes, that's the Fall Creators update.
So, real quick, Redstone is in reference to
Minecraft.
Minecraft.
Yes,
okay, that's what I thought.
They've sort of done, with Halo, there was Cortana. And then there's Minecraft and Redstone. So they've, they sort of mine their IP for code names.
What can they use?
That could be why they bought Minecraft.
It could be, exactly. Yeah, just for that code name.
Just to do it.
Why don't they use other things though? I mean, the number this should be like what's that? The cow one? Isn't there like a moo?
They could do Gears of War or something or other. I'm not sure.
Really?
They could do Ripper. I mean, they could do like a Ripper, right? Isn't a Ripper a weapon in the Gears of War? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Asher.
Yeah.
Lancer.
Yeah, exactly.
For Forza, you can set waypoints.
That's true.
I don't know.
That's right.
Who knows? Anyway.
All right.
Windows. We all use it.
All right. So let's talk Windows. So first of all, this is probably, unfortunately, sort of the most, I don't want to say inconsequential, but this isn't, it sort of lacks the big, it sort of lacks the big features that other updates have had. So the anniversary update and the creators update and the fall creators update. So this doesn't even have like a formal name. So normally they would have.
What?
It's Redstone 4. I mean, it's not the Spring Creators update necessarily. In past, what they would do is they would have sort of a big presentation, whether at Build or New York or something of that sort, and they'd say, okay, this is the blah, 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 the Creators update. They'd roll it out when they show us all the features and so forth. And they haven't done that with this. And they really haven't had any sort of, big to-do about anything. So right now it's called Redstone 4. That's sort of the informal, formal working name. Now, as far as release date's concerned, I'll tell you from historically, a year ago, they released the Creators Update, not the Spring Creators Update, the Creators Update on March 21st. I think that was the sort of the RTM release. And then the final build was released on April 11th. So my guess is it's going to be sort of March 22nd, thereabouts. And then my guess was April 5th. I thought they'd do it April 5th, but I could be wrong on that.
That was my first question, too. I was like, what are they going to call this? We got Fall Creators Update, Creators Update, and then now there's actually nothing. It's so inconsequential that I'm going to give it a...
There's not a whole lot there. But, I mean, here's the thing. So there's not a whole lot of big features, but there's still a bunch of smaller things. I think the thing that people sort of forget with Windows is that Microsoft makes Windows for everyone. So it might not be your Windows. Like, for example, there's a lot going on with like pen writing with a stylus. I don't write with a stylus all that much, but for someone who does, that kind of thing is a big deal. So what I did is I kind of pulled out sort of a few features that I think could be relevant to this audience. I mean, they're not the best ones, but some of them are, they're kind of cool. So let's just start out with, I'll just kind of run them down and we could talk about them maybe, as we go through a little bit afterwards. So the sort of the premier ones are Timeline, and Timeline is something that replaces Task View. So if you go down the bottom of your taskbar, there is that little sort of the task view button, and it sort of allowed you to create virtual desktops, which isn't that handy when you have a multiple monitor, but if you have a laptop, you can sort of swipe the desktop there, and it's sort of a collection of apps, which is kind of cool, but nobody really used it.
Yeah.
Which, so they decided to go ahead and
use it.
Yeah, well, it's handy if you have if you have a laptop, but if you have a desktop, and if you have multiple monitors, it's not so handy. So we replaced it with Timeline, and Timeline's shtick is not a shtick, but it's a useful thing. Timeline's thing is that you would go ahead and use, it would keep track of what you used and when. So if you used Edge and you surfed PCWorld's website, and if you went to this and that and the other, or if you opened a Word document, or you opened an Excel spreadsheet, it would track all of that. And the idea is that if you had to go back to it, like you put something on hold for a couple of days, you could instantly go back and pull up the same things you had open. The nice thing about it, too, was that they grouped it into, the idea is that we group it into activities as well. So if you were working on a research paper and you had a spreadsheet open, and a Word document and an Edge web page, they would group that all together so you could open them up at the same time. And I think that's kind of useful. But again,
that's handy.
Yeah, it's handy if you're going to use it. I mean, not everybody uses it, but I think it's kind of cool.
The machine has to go to standby. I mean, if you do a shutdown or reboot, it doesn't. Does it still keep that?
It tracks it. I mean, it's basically tied to your Microsoft account. So if you switch machines, it just kind of tracks what you do, and you can already sort of see that. Like if you have your, if you're working in your Edge on your mobile phone and you're at a web page, it'll sort of suggest picking up that web page when you go back to your PC. It's going to pick up where you left off. So you can kind of see those are the underpinnings that they're sort of putting into place right now. So there's that. Now, there was something called sets, which was, I think Brad knows what I'm talking about, where you had basically, we sort of wrote a couple of stories about that, where you had instead of having everything open in Windows, you would have like everything open in tabs. So you'd have like a Windows Explorer with a tab for Excel, or a tab for your calendar, or a tab for a mail. And this was sort of a different approach than doing it. The traditional Windows approach, the idea was, though, they were going to sort of try it out and then kick it out, and then pull it back, and then kick it out to Redstone 5 in the fall. So that's what they've done. So Sets was there, and it's not there anymore. So Timeline and Sets sort of went together. Now, the third thing, which is interesting, is called near share, or nearby sharing. And the idea is, like, for example, if we were sitting here, you and I wanted you to give you a link to a presentation, what I could do is there's a sharing tab within Windows Explorer or an Edge where I would just go ahead and usually share it to like Mail or Facebook or something of that sort. Well, here I would share it to your computer if you had Bluetooth on, and it would just kick the link over to you.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Do you have to pair them, though? Is there a pairing that
Not necessarily. You have to have it you have to basically have your PC on and saying, I'm willing to accept files from other people. The problem
you have to be visible on the network.
Yeah, you have to be visible on the network.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. You have to be on the same network. You have to have Bluetooth on. You have to say, I want to accept files and so forth. The problem is that it uses, from what I can see, it uses both Wi-Fi and Bluetooth, but it's supposed to use Wi-Fi for sharing, but I can only test it, and it only seems to test it with transfer files via Bluetooth, which is like 1 to 3 megabits, which kind of sucks, right? So you can only it's really only effective for sharing URLs and like pictures. So
Does it just pop up as like a Windows notification?
Yeah, it does, exactly.
Oh, okay.
And you just say, oh yeah, I want that, and it just gives it. And in fact, if you had it's a URL, it automatically opens it in Edge. So it's handy, for example, for sharing URLs, and that's great. But
I think I would love that, because like I sit around the house, and whenever I want to, like, my wife and I are both sitting on our laptops, and I go, hey, check this out. I usually have to like open up Facebook Messenger, shoot her a link or whatever. This would make it a lot more seamless, I think.
Right. Well, that's the thing too, because a lot of people use like chat. So like in Slack, if we wanted to do it, we would just share it in Slack. So that's the only problem.
Yeah, most people at home don't use Slack.
That's true, though.
So or HipChat or any of those group messaging, right?
Or Skype.
I mean, for most people, text messaging is probably the text carrier network is probably the most common way people share information, or email. But
yeah, so again, a handy little feature. Not necessarily people are going to necessarily use it, but kind of cool.
So you would go in Edge, you'd open up, say, hey, check out this totally illegal site. I'm going to send it to you, and then you would get it, and then your machine would get infected. And
yeah, exactly. That's right. Something like that.
On Edge.
Exactly. That's right. So a couple more. We've got new graphics settings for multi-GPU systems. In other words, anything like a desktop with a graphics card in it or a Surface Book, where normally you would have AMD or NVIDIA sort of say, okay, this app should use the embedded graphics chip. Now Windows wants to take that over.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So, yeah.
Is it forced to take that over, or is it an option to take that over?
I think Windows wants to take that over. Now,
okay.
Yeah. So you can go ahead and the app as the ultimate determinant. So if your app just says, I want the discrete GPU, it'll take it. And that's just the way it works. Otherwise, though, you can specify, like, I don't know, if you want it, calendar, if you wanted to have the
wow, that's
GPU,
interesting.
that.
Because when I think about most games, some of them do say you have an option for which GPU you want to use, but the vast majority don't.
Right.
So they sort of default to what the driver says.
Yeah.
Which would go to AMD or NVIDIA. But now that goes to Microsoft under Redstone 4. So
yeah, that's right. That's sort of that's the idea anyway.
Will there be granular control? You say like, no, I want to throw this off to a certain video card instead of the IGP.
Yeah, I mean it's per app control, and for individual apps you can just say, hey, I want this app to be run under the graphics, discrete graphics cards and integrated graphics card. It's kind of up to you. So yeah. Or again, you can just sort of let the system default, and Microsoft, the Windows, will make that decision for you. So, yeah.
I don't hate that.
Yeah.
I don't hate that. I like that idea. It should be easier to do that in Windows as is, rather than digging through control panels.
Yeah, there's definitely some things that would be nice at the OS level, but I do wonder, like, there's always some borderline applications that, like, you really don't need to fire up the GPU for this. Like, that was one of the problems of the early MacBook Pro. When the latest MacBook Pro came out, WebGL would fire up the Radeon card and it would just kill the battery. And that's one of the things they did, is they basically cranked the levels down. So,
Gordon, real quick, you're talking about this MacBook Pro you're using in front of you, right? A couple people on Twitch have noticed your awesome MacBook Pro.
Yeah, that's a cool one.
It's the best thing. So this is a prototype MacBook Pro.
Wow, how'd you get that?
Well, I got a lot of high friends at Apple. This one is made by this company. I've never heard of it. It's made by the HP division of Apple. And
nice.
It is a convertible. So they haven't released this.
Steve Jobs was wrong.
They have not released it to the market yet. It's got touch. The newer versions have pen. It's really awesome.
Anyway, sorry.
Oh, that's cool. So, sort of video-like, actually, the next one is, you may be aware in the Fall Creators Update, there is a video setting for HDR, and it gets a little bit more powerful with the Spring Creators Update, or whatever we're calling it, Redstone 4. So, if you go to Settings, Apps, Video Playback, you should already see like a little embedded video there, and what'll happen is if you have an HDR quality monitor or a TV set or something of that sort you connect to, you should have some additional options to control it. You can control the brightness and so forth. You can flip on HDR and so forth. I think you can actually control the settings for SDR video too, a little bit. But for example, most people in most notebooks like this one, for example, doesn't actually have HDR capability, so I can't really test it per se. I'm gonna have to actually bring one in and flip, hook it up to one of our HDR monitors. But it's basically a recognition that if you have HDR capabilities, it's providing some controls. Right?
And that's going to be under, again, that was settings, apps.
It should be settings, system, display.
Damn it.
That's great, though, because HDR is finally starting to kind of inch into the market, so I'm glad to see Windows take an account for it. Windows 10 is just up their video and monitor compatibility games so much compared to previous versions already.
Yeah. Oh, do you have full version update?
Yeah, this is not HDR, but
Okay. Yeah. So nothing. You're not actually seeing it.
but yeah, because there's nothing.
Right. So anyways, that's there. A couple more. Something that might be relevant to people who work on metered or in the rural or in the Comcast world where you only have a terabyte. So Microsoft's going to give you a better control over your data usage. You can actually see how much you've downloaded on for updates and things like that. You can actually dive way down into settings, homes, network, and internet, and you can control how much data you share. Like, for example, Microsoft allows you to get data from other PCs in the internet, other PCs in your network, and also to share that data back out. It kind of works like a BitTorrent application where you can sort of regulate the amount of bandwidth you want to go ahead and use. The other thing it does is that there's kind of a corollary to that, in that you will be able to pick if you want to prioritize Ethernet or cellular, which is kind of interesting. It's kind of recognition that cellular in some places is faster than Ethernet, which, it could be, I guess, if we have 5G in a 5G world.
Or you don't want it to eat up your entire allotment.
Exactly, that's
push
right.
you into Slowville.
Yep. Two more, and then we'll move on. We have you have already called Focus Assist down in the sort of the corner of your notifications, and it's quiet hours, I should say. It's renamed Focus Assist, and you're giving more granular controls over that. To allow you just a little bit more just control over, like, for example, you can set it to not allow anything but alarms. What's nice about this is that there's two situations where Focus Assist will automatically kick off. One is if you're making a presentation. The other is if you're playing a DirectX video game. So you will not see notifications if that's the idea. Which is great. I mean, that's a terrific idea. Just noticed.
Yeah.
There's nothing like getting pulled out of your game.
Exactly, that's right. And the final one, which nobody has because nobody actually has Windows 10 for workstations, is Windows 10 for workstations Ultimate Performance.
Oh. So what's up with that?
That sounds
man?
Which basically just turns up everything.
But
to 11?
Yeah, it turns up everything. To 11.
Are we gonna get that? I mean,
I don't know.
Plebeians. I mean,
I don't know. I kind of would think so.
Are
but
they gonna sell like an actual Windows 10 for workstations?
They do, yeah. And I don't know who actually. I guess if you own a workstation, you get Windows 10 for workstations. I've never actually seen it in the wild.
But
so,
I mean, they must realize that performance-minded people want that capability, right?
Totally agree with you. Yeah, absolutely.
Is it? Are they just sort of like testing it to see how it goes? And
I don't know. Like I said, I've never seen it in the wild, so I'm not sure of the intricacies of it. But that's one of the things they sort of promised, made a few headlines, and none of us will actually see it probably because we don't have a version of it.
That's a good question because sorry, Brad. You gotta.
That would make, if they added that to Windows 10 Pro, that would be an actual compelling reason for normal people to buy Windows 10 Pro.
Totally agree. Yep. No, absolutely right. Yep.
I'm just thinking about when you did the Surface Book testing, there were some issues where the power slider. So typically in a computer, that power performance slider doesn't really do jack, right? With the GPU, and then you found on the Surface Book that it did actually start controlling the clock speeds on the GPU.
Yeah, well, you did too. It wasn't just me.
But was that just a test? Is that only for that build that you had in the Surface Book, or are we going to see that as a general rollout with?
You can adjust the power performance slider on anything, but like you said, it doesn't really have that much effect.
But with Redstone 4, will it actually crank back your GPU?
I don't think so. I'm not sure.
The Surface Book is controlled on the hardware level from Microsoft, so I have a feeling that's why you see that in the Surface Book 4, but you wouldn't see it somewhere else.
Yeah, but you know what I find is Microsoft tends to, on their own hardware, sort of do a little early beta testing on people. Well, not beta testing, but they sort of roll out early features. So for what we're talking about basically is on the Surface Book, or in Windows, when you crank the performance slider around, it doesn't change your GPU clock speeds overall. On the Surface Book, it actually limited the clock speeds of the GPU.
Book 2, by the way.
Surface Book 2, and it looked like it actually sort of limited power targets. But I could almost, like on a desktop, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't either. It'll be interesting to see. Like I said, I don't have a copy of it in the wild, and I don't know. I mean, it would be something that would be a little bit niche as far as sort of testing is concerned. But if we get our hands on it, it'd be great to do. So
yeah, I just kind of wonder if that's sort of the future, because I mean, if they're taking over basically what application goes to which GPU, and then now they're sort of saying we're going to manage how much power and how much performance you're going to get out of GPU, it sounds like they're getting a little more into controlling the guts of a system.
So that's basically it for Redstone 4. I mean, there's a few things that can play catch up on, like Edge is finally getting tab muting. Yay! Edge is finally getting like the ability to fill out forms if you're buying something from Amazon or something on the web from eBay. It fills out. You can store your
that wasn't in there before.
No. Yeah, I mean, some of these things are but I have to say we'll wait for a little bit. But Edge actually a couple other things that are kind of interesting, so we can talk about those too in a second.
Yeah,
I'm pretty interested about that GPU switching you were talking about earlier, because like right now I'm testing Acer Predator Helios 300, which is a gaming laptop that has a 1060, but also has Intel integrated graphics. And obviously, when it boots into games, the discrete GPU kicks up and just chews through battery life. But if you can set it in Microsoft in Windows to say, hey, when I'm playing, indie games or retro games like Fez or old Mega Man games or something, to say, hey, launch this in the Intel integrated graphics, you could save a lot of battery life.
Yeah. So I have to say that I haven't actually specifically tested that bit yet, because I mean, again, it's sort of coming out in the March, and I'm just starting to just sort of drill it out. But it's absolutely a good point. It's something to look at. So that's it for Redstone 4 as far as my list is concerned.
So that's so I guess, Brad,
I'm glad kind of that it's not so feature packed, because the last few major Windows updates have felt kind of buggy to me, and I hope that they have less features because they're focusing more on stability. Because I still, ever since I've installed Windows and through multiple installations, my taskbar icons flash randomly, etc. Copy and paste still doesn't work. I'd like them to spend a little bit more time doing stuff like that than adding new stuff.
The other thing that I haven't seen is anything tied to mixed reality. There was a warning on one of them that said, hey, mixed reality will run sort of like single digit frame rates, but no updates, no feature pushes, that type of thing. I don't know. It's weird. I don't know what's going on with that.
Yeah, it sounds like that's headed for the garage with Microsoft Bob and other Wi-Fi adapters.
We have somebody in the Twitch chat, Twitch TV/PCWorld US. Aliana Yee, I think. Mark, I still don't know how you defend Edge given how long it's taken to get these features.
Edge. Okay, so Edge is like the great white whale for me. It has this. I have used it, and it seems like the fastest thing I've ever used. And then I've used it, and it's dog slow. I mean, today I don't run it without Ghostery, one of the extensions plugins, just because again I can go to a situation where it just takes forever. Now, we will run applications and benchmarks on it, and it's actually super fast. But the usage just continues to diminish. Part of its performance, performance got a bad reputation for performance early on. Part of it's sort of lagging in terms of features. I have no qualms about using Edge, especially now, but it certainly has been something that people have passed over in favor of Chrome and Firefox, and to some extent Opera too. So.
Yeah, I think it's just
it's wild to me that it's taken them so long to get some of these basic features implemented in it. That's the part, like I've tried using it, and I don't mind using the experience of using the browser itself, except for I kept bouncing off into things like what you were saying, that it doesn't save your address information. For a while there was all kinds of stuff like that for the first year or two. Now it's in a lot better shape.
And they go in the more. I have to say that one of the things they're doing in Redstone 4 is they're sort of trying to enhance their book reading experience, which I don't know how many people read books in Edge, right? And EPUB books and things like that. But that's one of the things they're trying to make an emphasis on.
Well, it's weird too, because they push Edge as your Acrobat reader.
So which actually does a good job there.
Yeah, but there is actually a really good reader app that Microsoft had on day one of Windows 8 even, that was actually a really good reader. It was fast, it was responsive. It was good for touch.
Well, didn't they just discontinue the reader? Or they're going to discontinue the reader app?
Discontinue it in favor of using Edge. My problem with Edge, and I'm hoping that someone from the Edge team gets this memo from somebody.
Oh, they're all here in the chat.
One of the Edge people follow me on Twitter. He's a nice guy.
It's just like the UI is just horrible, right?
It's minimalist.
It's so minimal. It's like it's useless. Like to me, when I download a file, I like in Opera, in Chrome, in freaking Netscape Navigator, there's like a download selection. Like, where are my downloads, right? I don't even know how to find my downloads in Edge.
Right.
That's like a basic button to have.
Actually, the thing for me when I use it is that every time it pops up for the PDFs, or every once in a while in the notifications, it'll be like, "Hey, why don't you try Edge? Are you sure you don't want to switch over
That's
to Edge?
True. It does
it's so much faster."
Yeah, that's right.
And then when you install Chrome, even when you go to default, make the default thing change, it's just like, "Are you sure?" It's it's like, come on, yeah,
it's faster.
I think it would work. What they need, Mark, so you can pack, because you do talk to Microsoft team. What they need is like some animal with really big eyes looking up at you holding a hat. Are you sure you want to switch to Chrome? See that one? Like, oh, it's so cute.
Actually, that would be
all
cute.
right. I'll give Edge another try.
It's gotta be a cat, though.
I gotta say though, one of the things I just love about Microsoft is I love Bing and Bing's photography. They're sort of the picture of the day.
Oh yeah,
I love that. Their themes.
I actually
use that for my lock screen.
Yeah, I use that for the lock screen too. It's great.
Yep. I just love it. Yep.
No, and Bing is a worthy, and I've tried it many times too. Just you do want to have competition in the market.
Yep.
As much as, to be honest, I always go back to Google. You do want to I try it over time because I do want to.
Bing, I think, has gotten worse as far as searching for like my particular articles, where it used to be quite good. It's deteriorated, I think, a little bit over time. I use Google finds things better than I do, but as far as everything else, and then also I like the way Google organizes news. I don't think Bing does a good job there. But other than that, I do think they're pretty comparable, and I think Bing has some advantages in certain areas.
But it has that nice picture too.
It has a lovely picture. It has a great picture.
We have over on Twitch, we have the Negotiator 01. He says, do you think it's because Microsoft is so spread thin on all their other ventures that they can't really focus on Edge and bring
I
these
do
features?
actually. I think that's exactly right. I think that they've had sort of a focus. Well, not really a focus, but I mean they've sort of gone in different directions for these things. Again, books being a good example of that. I don't know enough about their particular web development or the development team to sort of say anything more about it. But Edge sort of obviously picked up where Chrome had a number of years already under its belt, and same with Firefox and Opera too. So from that standpoint, it was kind of playing catch up the whole time.
And Internet Explorer.
Yeah, exactly. Which is still there.
So. Where are they at with market share on Edge these days?
It continues to diminish. I don't know offhand, but I want to say, God, what is it around these days? I think the last time I checked was in the 20s. I could be wrong.
Wow. Because everybody assumes that Microsoft has always had that edge, because you'd buy a new computer and it would be the default browser, and consumers would never switch because they wouldn't know enough to switch. Clearly that whole belief doesn't exist anymore because people are switching anyway.
We were joking about Edge advertising at you, doing pop-up ads, which it totally does. But if you go to google.com or Gmail or anything in Edge or any other browser, they'll constantly say, hey, try out Chrome.
Sure.
It's Absolutely. This, it's that.
Well, actually, my parents, they pretty much run on whatever is default in there. So
they're running Edge?
Yeah. So they run Edge,
Yeah, I think my parents were still running an Explorer for quite a while. I had to force them to move on to Windows 10.
Interesting. My father-in-law uses Chrome, so I don't think I installed it either.
Once you stick to a browser, though, you kind of stick with it. It's hard.
Yeah, because you're tied to the ecosystem, which is.
And especially for me, I'm on an Android phone, so it's like to have all those tabs and everything already logged in. It's different. Mm-hmm. I mean, I can imagine a day where maybe back when the Windows Phone was still a viable thing. I could see that being a good way to stay in the ecosystem.
Yep,
but
exactly. That's why sort of the form filling from Edge was kind of a disappointment that sort of lagged a little bit.
Yeah.
So.
Hey, actually, I've been getting this pop-up lately. I'm just gonna throw out these Windows things because you're here. Where it's like, hey, link to your phone. Like, what is that? What are those features?
Right. That's kind of cool, actually. I mean, the Microsoft does a good. I mean, with Windows Phone just essentially dead. Microsoft's basically said, hey, look, we want to extend, instead of going from an operating system with another mobile platform, we want to go ahead and extend our apps across various mobile platforms. So they do that with Edge. They do that with Cortana. They do that with a couple of other things, Outlook, for example. And the idea being that Microsoft is going to know what you're looking at on your phone, and then sort of tie that in with your desktop experience. So it shouldn't be where you go ahead and you're looking up all these different things on Edge or whatever it might be on the way to work, and then you get to your office and you're like, oh, what was the page I was looking at again? So the idea being that, and this is, Chrome does that too to some extent. So the idea being that as much as you can, it's trying to extend that sort of that productivity experience and continue that across your various mobile platforms. So by installing, mobile apps on your phone, you sort of have the possibility of doing that. And to be honest, I still think they have room to improve here. I've been testing out the Insider stuff for a while, and Timeline for me, for some reason, just hasn't picked up anything. I don't know why it is. Other people don't share that experience. I don't think I've turned off anything in privacy that allows me to do that. So it's worked sporadically, I suppose. But when it works, it's cool, and I kind of would like it to sort of pick up. And but again, sort of the extension of the mobile apps is the whole idea behind it.
So real quick, when does this Redstone whatever come out?
Redstone 4 is supposedly, well, we don't have a formal date for it. My guess is around the end of March, around March 22nd is my date. I could be wrong on that. So again, historically, it's been around, I think it was March. Did I raise that for my thing? It's about that time. I think it was the March 21st a year ago.
Okay.
So.
And what kind of coverage do you generally do on the site?
We do. We'll do sort of a how-tos for individual sort of key features. I think we'll do something. I've got a near share one that's, I guess, probably in editing right now. We'll look at Timeline, we'll look at some of the other ones, and then we'll have a formal review pretty much on the same sort of that time. I don't know if it's going to be April 5th or March 22nd or thereabouts, but around then we'll have a formal review.
Cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
We do feature roundups too that kind of bring everything together so you know what to look for when you boot up.
Right. And we'll try to highlight some of the more hidden features too we've done in the past.
Yeah. And sometimes we've done videos on those too. Those people usually like those. Yeah.
Are we all going to be forced to run it? I mean, it's not like a big deal.
It's a feature update, so you will be forced to run it eventually. You can go ahead and defer it to an extent, but then Microsoft will continue to nag you and nag you and nag you.
Right.
It's all about security.
Security.
That's right.
All right. Although I want to move us to the next phase, though.
Yes,
Which,
and
of course I didn't write down in my notes. But
Windows
think
as a service.
Windows as a service.
Sure.
Boom.
You want to explain to people what that concept is?
Sure. So Windows as a service is the idea that, in part, it's just the fact that Windows is constantly evolving, and Windows 10 is sort of implied that it's going to keep on going and going and going. I don't know if there'll ever be a Windows 11 or Windows 12. But we've seen, we're on the second year of Windows 10 at this point. So we're just constantly seeing additions to the code base and additional features and so forth. And I have to say that one of the things that we've talked that was been surfaced in the news recently, and shout out to, I guess, colleagues, competitors, what you might do. There's, Windows Central, Paul Thurrott's site, Mary Jo Foley over at ZDNet has all sort of taken stabs at sort of what could be the next iteration of Windows. And it is unclear whether this is actually going to take place, whether it's going to be sort of a project, whether it's going to be a project or an initiative from Microsoft that customers, developers are going to go, I'm not sure we want this. But they've talked about sort of what the next iteration of Windows could be. And it starts with what's called CoreOS, which is sort of the technical underpinnings of Windows, what makes, how Windows interacts with hardware and so forth. And the idea is that there's been sort of various versions of Windows historically where they've had, sort of different just different versions of Windows with different capabilities and so forth. The idea being now is that you would have a single unified form of Windows, but you'd have a different sort of look and feel on top of it. So you'd have CoreOS, and then on top of that, you'd have C Shell, capital CSHELL, which is the just essentially the way that allows you to compose different looks and feels on top of it. I'm saying this from a very high level. There's you can go in far more in depth if you want, but there would be various composers for various platforms. So you'd have a mobile composer, which has been said to be called Andromeda, and then you would have a desktop composer, which would be said to be called Polaris. And these would, again, be essentially the same windows, but they would have different looks and feels and capabilities based upon them. And it's the idea is that it's a modular OS. And I guess from what the reporting has been, that I don't even know why, I'm not sure if this is exact or not, but customers would have sort of the option to sort of pick and choose what versions of the operating system would be installed. That seems a little far-fetched for me, but I'm not entirely certain, because one of the things that people were talking about as far as the modularity was concerned was Win32.
Right.
Microsoft. The desktop. Microsoft would love to get rid of Win32 and some of the legacy cruft. I mean, who needs a fax app anymore, right?
Well, but for people who don't know, Win32 is, of course,
the traditional executable files
that has been around since the beginning.
That's right.
So,
so the idea being that it would go to, there's a couple of different things that, so if you got rid of all of those things, if you got rid of Win32, it would, of course, remove a lot of the legacy apps that people know and love. Now, if the idea, the way I understand it, was that Microsoft would solve that problem in two different ways. I use solve sort of in quotes because I'm not sure if it would necessarily do that. So there's two different things that they would do. First of all, you do sort of what they have sort of called the desktop bridges. And they've had a couple of these, but the most popular one right now is what's called Project Centennial. And that would take a traditional Win32 app and move it into the UWP format, which is being used by Microsoft more and more these days.
UWP is the format that apps in the Windows Store are.
That's right, exactly. Yeah, exactly right. So if
which
you use
everyone
like
loves.
if you use like the Mail app, for example, within Windows 10, that's a UWP app because it essentially, calendar. There's a really nice. I really actually love the fact. I really actually love some of the UWP apps. Honestly,
some of them are good.
Some are great. No,
some
I mean,
are not great.
I have to say that, for example, I don't use Outlook hardly anymore because
Really?
Well. Mail does everything I want for me. It gives me my email. It allows me to reply to things. It has a calendar.
And it works.
I don't need, and it used to be the fact that if you loaded Mail, it tended to crash like instantly in the first iteration of Windows 10. But now it's solid and stable, and it does everything they want. The OneNote app within Windows 10 is again sort of the same thing, and in fact it's sort of an odd duck because there really isn't any sort of UWP version of Word anymore. It used to be called Word Mobile, and it's essentially kind of gone. But OneNote sort of stays there, and it does everything that I want. It records information and ties it to my notes and so forth, and just does it. But I think that the one thing that people sort of have thought about, So there's the Centennial apps, which is the sort of the Centennial program, which is the idea is that you would, again, bring these legacy Win32 apps into a UWP format. There's something else, too, that Microsoft's talking about, and not just Microsoft, Google, by the way, and that's what's called a progressive web app. And a progressive web app traditionally has been essentially a web app in a browser. It allows you to, it's essentially kind of a web app on steroids. And you might recall that when we first had Windows 10 and especially Windows 10 Mobile, a lot of the early apps were essentially just web pages. I think Facebook was a good example. So you loaded the Facebook app, you essentially got the Facebook web page, and people kind of went, poo-pooed that because they said, we want a traditional app.
Right.
But it did everything that you needed to do. And I think that right now we're going to go back to that. If PWAs become sort of a thing, we're going to go back to that. Now, Microsoft does something that with a PWA, supposedly with something with a PWA that Google does not, and that is that it would run that web app without the web browser. So you would basically be looking at an app, but you wouldn't know it was a web app. And it would appear in the store. It would have updates. You would be able to rate it. It would have an AppX format, just like it has right now. And between Centennial and these PWAs, you would theoretically solve the problem of not having enough apps. Now, one more thing. I would say that, from that standpoint, I'm in favor of that, and I'll tell you why. Right now in the Windows 10 Insider program, the current version of Windows 10, the current Insider version, breaks the store. You can't get anything from the Windows 10 store. And so I was like, dang, I wanted Spotify on one of my machines. So But if you go to Spotify's website, you have the option of downloading the store app. You have the downloading the version of the Win32 app, and then you have the version of the option of downloading the web app. They all do the same thing. They all offer me music. They all offer me playlists. They look virtually identical. So from that standpoint, cool, great. Give me a web app. I don't care.
Yeah, but I mean, could we? So one of the problems, clearly one of those, we're at that sort of moment where people are always afraid that Microsoft really wants to dump Win32, which is all the legacy code, all the ancient stuff that's been around for 25 years in
Team
Windows.
Sweeney. Sorry.
Right. Team Sweeney, right? It's what Team Sweeney fears because Steam is a Win32 app.
Right.
Steam is a store.
Yep.
Are they going to let it put us? I mean, is the Windows Store going to be a mall, and then they're going to allow? Because I mean, if they're going to have iTunes in there, which really blew me away, that they got Apple aboard with iTunes, so maybe
it's still not in there yet, though.
Yeah, it's still not in there.
Yeah.
Oh,
well, that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, the
load.
high performance games, Photoshop and so forth, demand all the resources you can throw them. And yeah, UWP apps sort of limit that right now. So. That's where it gets a little bit confusing for me because, I mean, if it is modular, you would have to, I guess, theoretically, you would sell a high-end PC that would have all those features enabled. I don't know how you would market it necessarily. You'd have to have Win32 in there. You'd have to have all those functions.
I was reading those Windows Central articles you referenced before we came on the air here, and they were saying that if this goes out, the plan is to still offer Windows 10 Pro as a separate thing.
You'd have to. Yeah, exactly. I mean, but the thing of it is, the other thing that I think about, and I think the thing that's what people, I mean, that I think about in this context is the fact that we have had a world where, Microsoft's tried to get rid of Win32, and we call that Windows 10S, and that's gone over like a lead balloon.
Every single Surface review you read, Surface laptop says this would be the best laptop if it wasn't for Windows 10S.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we've had one machine plus those educational machines, which I have to say missed their market just because they came out after the start of the school year. And,
you have a Windows 10S laptop right there, don't you?
It's running Windows 10 Pro.
Yeah. Exactly. Which you got for free because I mean the 10S upgrade was free, right?
Free
it just kind of. But here again, all the core stuff by Foley and Paul, it's all theoretical. No one really knows if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But when is Microsoft just going to go? You know what? This is something we're never going to. This is us. Windows without Win32 is not Windows. Right? Is that just kind of like, that's just a reality. In 100 years, people will be running Win32, right? Because that's just, the PC to me feels like it's all about legacy. It's taking a computer I just bought yesterday at Best Buy and I'm running a 25-year-old application on it, right? I mean, is there a Windows that you really can't do that? Is that a Windows consumers will ever accept?
Well,
I just don't know.
The way I think about Apple and Windows is that, we call Apple a cult, and I think to some extent that's right. I mean, they want to see, an Apple user wants to see what's on the far side of the comet, right? They want to be dragged into the promised land. I mean,
I gotta say, there's a little bit. I don't want to mention the particular religion because I don't want to have lawyers crawling at us. It feels like some of the people on the Apple, gathering have decided to throw stones at them these days. There's a lot more rock thrown at Apple these days by their own users.
They throw it though. I think the Apple users throw stones over hardware though. I don't think they throw them on the software. Except for like maps.
No, I don't think so. I gotta say, you could go to a Mac forum and you could clone it and replace Mac with Windows, and you would think, people are like, because they're like, oh, I can't. Why are you building this? I don't want a stupid iPad. It's like I'm going to spend $1,300 for a 13-inch iPad when I get a MacBook Air. I mean, how or a MacBook Pro even.
I guess what my
they
point.
They want a desktop OS. They don't want all this touch crap. They just don't. It doesn't.
I guess my point is that I think Apple users are more open to blowing stuff up from a software side and starting fresh. I think Windows users sort of look at each feature update as, I have my Windows the way I want. Don't mess with it, and that's kind of the way, it's because we've had a legacy of 25 years of PCs. People have their way they want to.
And I believe you, and I do think it's a little bit because I mean, if you look at the Mac experience has been, oh man. Motorola 68000 is the best thing ever. Yeah, would you suck it, x86? Oh, we got some news. We just came down, got the tablets. We're going to PowerPC, but I just built this wagon. Burn it to the ground. PowerPC is the future. Okay, we're going to do it. We're going to make the move. They do it. And then, everybody, they came down from the mountain again and said, actually, we're going to do x86, but we just did PowerPC. I'll burn it to the ground. I don't think they're going to make a transition again. I just can't see. The complaints that I hear from all the Mac users, because I love to give them hell about it.
Right.
They don't want iOS. They don't want ARM. If it's not fast enough, they want a full experience. They want to be able to run a desktop experience, which on PC we can do because I think very much of Win32. And I don't know if I just don't think. I'm sorry. I just don't think Apple users are going to go one more this time. I think this time they're gonna like forget it. That's it. I'm gone. I'm going to be Paul Haggis. I'm going to be making a movie, be criticizing you, talking to the New York Times.
Gordon, you want to put that on paper? Somehow
they are. Apple is not. Yeah, I gotta say, if I were Apple, there should be as much. Their priority should be as much on Mac OS on x86 as they're putting into iOS, because that ain't going nowhere. I'm sorry, it's just going nowhere these days for tablets.
I don't give a shit about. Sorry. I don't care about Macs. But I am worried about what the future of Win32 is in Windows, because I think that looking at Windows 10s, listening to these rumors, if they turn out to be true, it's clear to me that in the future, I think the basic version of Windows won't be able at some point to play games or traditional Win32 apps. I think if you want to have Steam games that don't run UWP apps, if you want to install Chrome, you're going to have to spend more for Windows 10 Pro. That includes legacy versions. I think that's a future that's coming at some point, I think.
Exactly what Sweeney is feared, right? So people don't know this is Epic's Tim Sweeney, who is a lot of, most of the media made fun of him for being crazy alarmist because Microsoft is trying to kill Steam. And a lot of these moves do seem like they're out to kill Steam, right? I mean,
it's possible. We should mention too that Microsoft Build comes up in May, so we'll be interested to see if there's any. If they're going to announce it, this would be an opportune time to do it.
Yeah. But I mean, I guess would they just fork the OS and then just kind of like?
It could be, yeah.
But we've tried that before, right? I mean, we've tried forking it before, and it just never works.
I mean, then you get into a marketing discussion as much as anything else.
So we had somebody in the YouTube chat. I think it was Elvis saying that. Yeah. Do you want to put any of these predictions on paper, Gordon? Or I'm sorry, Mark. And yeah.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you know. It's something we do. We like to put our predictions on paper, and then at the end of the year, we have to eat it or not.
The only predictions I've made pretty much are the dates for the rollout for Redstone 4. And I'm not going to be off by a day before Steve words. Sorry.
Mark is too serious of a journalist here. He's not going to.
No, he's doing what Elena does and just takes the easy approach.
He doesn't want to eat that paper.
Elena's tummy seems to be kind of an...
yeah. That's why she's never here all the time. Well, I just gotta go. Too much paper.
Gordon had a whole paper sandwich in December, and it was really good.
Fresh.
I gotta say, all right. Well, I'll predict. Apple ain't there. No way in 2018 or 2019 they're gonna do Mac OS on iOS or on ARM. That's not gonna happen. Ain't gonna happen. And I think they're gonna re-emphasize Mac OS again. If I were to predict.
All right.
That's just my Apple prediction for
your Apple prediction.
But for Microsoft, it's hard to say, right? I don't know. There's no prediction for me. I just think they're not going to do it. I do think they want to play with it. You mean?
I think they want control of their hardware destiny, and the chips like the last big thing. And especially after all this with Meltdown and Spectre and whatnot, that's even more incentive for them to, bring their own stuff in house.
I love these predictions that are two-sided. So whoever loses has to eat it.
I just can't see it. I mean, I understand. I think they will introduce. It's just a lot of they like floating a lot of trial balloons, right? Hey, maybe the market will take to it. This Core OS idea, but I just think they're Windows without Windows 32 is Win32 is not Windows.
There's a lot of initiatives from Microsoft that they sort of announce and then sort of vanish. I mean, I kind of want to see my HoloLens before I see anything else from them, really.
Yeah.
So
that I'd hate to you show up at your office like you've been relocated to Wing 5. Right? You're working on something new now, but I was working on this. No, not anymore. I just can't. I don't know. I just don't see what they get out of doing it. That's why I just can't see it. I know they want to do it because there are reasons to leave legacy behind. I mean, it's got to suck, right? Just have to support like a floppy drive in the operating system, right?
Well, Apple got rid of that absolutely.
But I mean, it's actually still supported in the operating system, right?
What, floppy within Windows?
Yeah.
As far as I know, yeah.
Yeah, so I mean, you gotta figure from a Microsoft perspective. Really, do we really have to support this hardware and this ancient legacy stuff?
How much code does a floppy drive driver take up, though?
I know, but still, it's just like, you know what? That's a little. I mean, you want to complain about OS bloat? It's like you don't need the floppy support.
I guess. Yeah.
Why not dump it? You know, and people don't know this. If you plug a floppy drive into Android, it works. Still, I mean, I haven't tried it in 8, but two generations ago, it worked. You can access a floppy drive in Android.
Nice.
So that goes against the point that you're trying to make, isn't it? Because the whole point of Windows is to be a modern phone-like OS, modular and stuff. And the fact that Android supports floppy disks is going against the point that you're trying to
Brad,
make.
it's Android, for God's sake. There's no rhyme or reason with Android.
Or with Gordon.
Android is just like, I don't know. That's basically the answer for everything.
Yeah.
I'd be nervous. The whole idea of
Android user.
a Windows laptop that doesn't support Win32, I think would be a rough one for them to push across to the public, because they've already tried it with Windows RT. They've already tried it with Windows 10S, and it doesn't seem like either one of those. Windows RT just flat out died. Nobody wanted it.
Right.
Windows 10S, the jury's still out, but I haven't, seen groups of kids
I
carrying
think we
around
know
Windows
what that
10S
jury's
laptops.
doing. I saw them tweet about it, Brad. Oh, man, this guy's guilty. What are we going to do for dinner? I thought you were on that murder trial. This guy's, he's going away. He's getting the electric chair. We already decided. We're just faking it so the judge doesn't make us go back in.
If they did ditch Win32, I'd almost suggest that they ditch the Windows brand or replace it with something else. Just because, the thing of it is that Chromebooks are out there, right? And nobody cares what a Chromebook can't do, Windows or apps or anything of that sort. It's just a web thing. And I'm raised. My kid knows what a Windows PC and he knows what a Chromebook is, and he doesn't think of the two as competitors necessarily. He just thinks of them as different machines. So I mean, if I have a Windows machine, like a Windows 10S machine, the problem is that I instinctively expect it to do everything that Windows does because it has that brand attached to it.
No, I agree with you. I think it's very much a branding decision.
Yeah.
Like if Windows RT had just been called something else instead of Windows RT, it might still be around.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right?
exactly. Yeah.
In fact, Chrome OS might not even be here. It might not have
something fresh. I don't care what you call it, but yeah, exactly. Call it something else.
Core,
Fresh OS.
Core.
Sure.
Windows Core
Microsoft
OS, just
Core
Windows
OS.
Core.
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
And then maybe they, the nice thing about Core is like, hey, you bought your Windows Core laptop, you can upgrade it to Windows.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, not Windows Core, but you can later on move it to a real OS if you need all the full serviceness.
Yep, 2 different brands, 2 different logos. You could take that in different directions.
All
It's
right.
not a bad idea.
Nice. Windows.
All right.
Who needs it?
I want to know who's going to win this one. We're
I
going to
need
find out. I need it. I ain't giving it up. I'm a Sweeney.
Well, what if you just put Windows in the cloud?
You could do that. Well, that's a nice transition, isn't it?
Yeah,
There we go.
perfect.
Into
The cloud gaming.
Cloud gaming.
yeah.
That's the other thing that Mark's been doing a lot of.
Well, I think
Brad
all
too.
of us have, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I've been doing a lot of GeForce Experience.
Yeah.
GeForce Now.
Now.
Is it? Oh, GeForce Now, right?
Yeah.
GeForce Now for the PC,
The real one.
not for the Shield TV.
Right.
Yeah, there's a
branding.
branding issue.
Yeah.
So it's of course I guess cloud gaming, it's just someone else's computer, or streamed gaming where you're basically running it on somebody's server. You've actually tried I've only tried GeForce Now. Have you've tried, you guys have both tried the other ones?
Yep. A couple of them anyways. Yeah, I've tried.
Mark has. I've only tried GeForce Now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so we can all talk about it. I mean, I've tried the.
Well, I think a lot of us tried OnLive at the time.
Oh yeah,
Oh,
absolutely.
yeah. I was overly harsh on online.
I loved OnLive.
I was
Yeah.
overly
I
harsh
subscribed
on
to it.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I still have an unboxed one sitting on a shelf somewhere.
I have a controller sitting where my kids play with it as pretend.
Oh, nice.
Thankfully.
Nice.
It's not working. The Xbox isn't working. Oh,
I don't know why. I
let's go
found
read
it
a
the other
book.
day and they were playing with it. I don't know. My house.
You're like that parent. I saw a picture. They had a Pepsi can, like a soda, and they had the straw taped on the outside of it, and then underneath was like medicine. So the kid was drinking medicine, and they thought they were, it was like a 2-year-old, right?
Funny.
Yeah, that ain't right.
Oh, that's
too much
funny.
I have too much crap in my house.
Yeah. So you tried what? So you tried Polaris, and you tried.
No. I've tried the Blade Shadow. Sorry. Yes. Do I have it right? Yes. Blade Shadow series, and then I've tried the Parsec solution too, which is actually Parsec is powering. They announced at CES the HP Omen game streaming.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So this is something only available on the HP Omen?
No, it's been out for a year. It's actually we can start that if you wanted to start with Parsec, we can. It's actually it's a free service. There's a couple of different things that it does, and a couple of different things that it does differently from the other services, as I understand it. It does a couple of things. First of all, if you have a gaming PC, your own PC, your own GPU, and so forth, you can actually sort of invite somebody over the internet to play co-op with you. So it's essentially like screen sharing, where you would just, and that's both a good and a bad thing. I mean, if you happen to have your a window open with your banking account information open, you don't want to invite somebody that moment. You want to start when you're playing the game. Is my understanding. And then you can also lease a cloud server, and they don't provide their own cloud servers. They use cloud servers from AWS and another company. I want to say, I forgot the name of it. Do I have it down here? No, I don't. Paper something or other. The name forgets me. And they actually allow the cloud server is leased on an hourly basis, but it's about $1 an hour. Sometimes it's a little bit less, like 84 cents. Sometimes it's like a bit more, like $1.20. The one I was using last night was a actually my notes have somehow disappeared. Okay, from memory, it was an 8-core Xeon. Haswell generation. There was a Quadro, NVIDIA Quadro, and it was I think it was like something like 30 gigs of memory and 16 gigs of graphics memory.
And you use so you basically sign up for Parsec, and then you basically then lease space on AWS and run it then?
Yeah, you're essentially leasing an AWS server. You have to pay an additional fee, which is about $10 a month for storage, and there's various levels of storage.
Right.
And then I think there's a little bit more that you pay for the game too. My notes unfortunately just didn't make it today. And essentially, you're just basically you if you want you have to provide your own game, so you have to provide Steam or Fortnite or whatever it might be, and then you download it to that service, and it's again it's like a gigabit connection, so it's like super fast, and then you just play from there, and it streams first of all, I guess we should explain the whole idea behind cloud gaming is that like Netflix takes video and streams it to your PC or your Xbox or whatever it might be. With cloud gaming, what you're doing is you're taking your controller or your keyboard and mouse, and you're inputting those instructions, and they're sending it upstream to the server. The server is processing it and then sending the results back down, and it's doing that as quickly as possible. The idea being it gives you the opportunity to have a gaming PC without actually having to pay for a GPU, which of course, as you guys have reported, costs an arm and a leg right now. The problem is that there is potentially a little latency involved that degrades your gameplay, which honestly I haven't really seen.
It's not that bad, I gotta say.
That's great. That was my good question about Parsec, because it seems like AWS is kind of a weird middleman to have in there. So I was worried about the latency.
Yeah, it didn't seem that bad. I tried. You guys have had some really smooth experiences. Parsec gave me a couple of weird things. There was a time where the audio was a little bit off, and I had to sort of reboot the virtual machine. The other weird thing that happened was, I think for some reason, Steam. This was not Parsec's fault at all. Steam's threw me some sort of something that Kaspersky, which was the antivirus software which is running in the Parsec thing, picked up as a miner app, as a coin miner app. So that had nothing to do with Parsec at all. It was something to do with Steam. I was really weird. I just basically Windows Defender caught it. I rebooted the virtual machine. There was no problems after that. It was just an odd situation, which I think was again specific to Steam and nothing to do with Parsec. But when I was able to get it running, which wasn't that bad actually. It was smooth, and there was it was a great experience. I mean, everything was like an Ultra that I ran and so forth. Yeah, no problems really at all, except for that one audio glitch, which I had to just reboot. And that was
and you've tried the others. And you tried Geforce Now, and
I haven't tried Geforce Now. Brad knows more. Brad and Adam know more about Geforce Now.
What's that? But you did a review of the Blade service.
I did a review of Blade Shadow, and Blade is a French company, and they're bringing this stuff to the U.S. right now. I think it's only open to Californians because they have their server. They don't use an AWS, so they have their own server, and their own server's in Palo Alto.
Wow.
And with that, it's pricey. It's $34.95 a month with a year's commitment, or $49.95 a month with no commitment. And you're getting a static. I mean, I have the specs on this one. It's a 2.1 gigahertz Xeon E5 2620 V4, NVIDIA Quadro P5000, 16 gigs of RAM, 12 gigs of just general RAM, memory, 256 gigs of storage, and you're getting a 1080p at 144 frames per second, or essentially they're saying 4K at 60 frames per second. The nice thing is that is completely unlimited. So you're paying a monthly fee, but you can play as long as you want. You have to supply your own games too. With that, I did have a few glitches. Like I would hook up a mouse and it wouldn't work, and then the next day it would work. Same thing with the Xbox controller. It was like, it felt very beta, but it also felt like it was very beta, but improving as well. And again, once I got it working, really, I had to fight with it more than I would expect. But once I got it working, very stable, very fast, and again, the unlimited aspect of it was a nice feature. So
$35 a month.
Yeah.
Did you have to open?
No, $50 a month. $35 is for 12 months up front. That's like 400 something bucks.
So you would pay $50 to start out, see how it works, and then maybe pay your additional.
But you would pay every month, right? It's not like you got to pay. You have to pay up front.
I don't believe. No, it's a month.
Okay.
I don't think there's actually an annual option. That could be wrong.
But you would agree to buy it for a certain amount of time to get the $35 discount.
Yeah, and it's sort of, you can buy a 3-month increment too, and it's sort of in the middle of that.
And then, of course,
it seems like a lot of rough edges for $50 a month.
Yeah,
it was. I would recommend holding off for right now, and then maybe trying it out in a month's time or something. But so they really should have like a 2-hour free trial.
And between Polaris, you haven't done Geforce now, but we can talk about that as well. But you've done Polaris. Between those two, which would you?
Oh, good question.
They're both running Steam games, of course.
Yeah, right. I think Polaris right now. Parsec right now is the superior one. Again, it's been out for about a year. Feels like it.
Yeah.
Again, I'm cheap, so the pricing aspect is a little bit rough. But again, versus paying for your GPU, it's not bad. I should also mention that Blade also has a dedicated piece of hardware which I keep meaning to pull out of it and just play. Just too much stuff has been going on right now. But they actually have like a box that. I'm not really sure what advantage it necessarily confers, because everything is being done on the back end, but you can hook up a couple of USB drive.
Right. I see.
Yeah.
If you don't even have a computer at all, you can just play on this thing.
I should also mention that, of course, the cloud gaming too allows you to play not only on a PC, but also like on a phone. I don't know why you'd want to do that. Or a tablet or something of that sort. I just liked it because I had a cheap PC and I ran it on the PC, and that's the way I wanted to play. But you can also do it in these other platforms.
You would just have to have USB HID support on it, and it would, I guess it would work, right? As long as there's a client.
Wi-Fi kind of slows it down a little bit. I mean, tethered connection's the best.
Did you have to open up any ports to get
I did. It was all handled. It was all handled automatically. I didn't have to worry too much about any firewalls or anything of that sort. I mean, there was instructions to do so, but that was actually, it's a good point. I didn't actually on either one. I didn't have to worry about anything like that.
That's good.
It just handled. It just worked. Yeah.
And I think all three of us have actually tried Geforce Now. So
I haven't. No.
Adam, Brad, and myself have tried it.
Yeah.
And it blew me away.
It is
the
very
first one
impressive.
ever to blow me away.
It works really well. Really well. Well, sort of, but I had to get past
I was worried about it because I have a crappy internet connection. I have Comcast home internet connection, the basic one, so I get like 25 megabits or whatever per second, which is the minimum required by the service. And the networking analyzer for Geforce Now kept telling me, hey, you're losing all kinds of frames lost too, which I didn't notice. But when you actually boot it up and play the games, it felt like I was actually playing games on a gaming PC. Like with OnLive and with Sony Remote Play or whatever they call it now, PlayStation Now or whatever. I tried Liquid Sky, another alternative last year. You spent just as much time fighting lag and bugginess, and I didn't have that with GeForce Now whatsoever. It did have a very, very minute amount of lag using keyboard and mouse in twitchy games. So, like, if you're a Counter-Strike pro going to an esports competition, you probably don't want to use GeForce Now.
No.
But just like I was playing Doom 2016, which is very fast-paced, very twitchy, and no problem whatsoever. Playing with a controller, it was imperceptible amounts of lag.
And how much is GeForce Now, Brad?
Right now, it's free. While it's in beta, which is going to be for the foreseeable future, they haven't announced an end date. It's 100% free.
I think I signed up for the beta
the kinks.
like 3 weeks ago and still haven't heard anything.
Yeah. Apparently, you have a better chance of winning
you
the
got
lottery.
to sign up for a wait list.
Yeah.
But if your graphics card craps the bed and you look up an RX 580 and see that it costs $500, sign up for the GeForce Now waitlist, because it actually, in my experience at least, with my network and hardware, which isn't that advanced, it's just like the Comcast router.
Now, go ahead, sorry.
Worked great.
It doesn't support everything though, right? Doesn't it have to have like a list of? It doesn't have a list of supported games.
It's tricky because it has an interface that pops up. It's a really horrible interface.
It's a horrible
the worst part I hate
interface.
about it.
Oh,
Yeah, that needs to be worked.
They have, I forget, like 150 officially supported games, which is everything on Blizzard, Fortnite, League of Legends, all the big ones on Steam, Uplay. They all work. But you can also go in to like this obscure corner of the app to manage your Steam account and install and play any of your Steam games. So you can play anything on there, but the first time you install one of the ones that's not officially supported, you got to wait for it to download and install. But they, like Parsec, have a very fast connection and blew through 10 gigabytes in, I think, a minute and a half or something like that. So
How much capacity? How much storage do you get?
unlimited.
Unlimited. Wow.
Unlimited.
yeah.
Oh, that's something.
Yeah. Wow.
It's great. I loved it. I love playing it. There were a bunch of games that I haven't bothered playing that I own on Steam because they take too long to install. Like I have games that are 50 gigabytes that I've never played because I'm not going to take that time over my home connection. But I've actually given them a shot through GeForce Now because I can install them so quickly.
Nice.
So
Yeah.
But, what I want to know though is because we're talking $50 or $35 for Blade, and then whatever it is for Parsec. What is it?
Wow. It varies depending on
Varies,
the thing,
but I kind of wonder where GeForce Now. What's the price that people are actually going to pay for GeForce Now when it comes out? Because I mean, Nvidia is such a huge brand. It seems like.
Well, they had that original pricing structure, which you paid by the card, right? Isn't that what it was?
Yeah, and I gotta say, it's very interesting because on AWS, I mean, if you're Amazon, it's like, oh yeah, $10 a month. It's like, we run this server farm, and our main problem is electricity.
Right.
And then you are now playing a game, and you're cranking this Quadro card up and eating 250 watts every day for 6 hours a day. It's like, that's really how long is that gonna float?
I don't know. I mean, to answer your question though, I think that probably we're seeing, I guess I would $40-$50 would probably be. I mean, it's totally expensive, but at the same time, like Brad said, I mean, there's some advantages there. Yeah, especially
For the,
if it's unlimited storage out there. Sorry, guys, but sorry, Brad.
for the original announcement at CES 2017, they had said you could pay $25 to get either 20 hours of gameplay on GTX 1060 level, so 1080p gaming, or 10 hours of GTX 1080 level, which is the beta right now is only doing GTX 1080 level. So
is there any?
They haven't mentioned pricing or release date or anything like that aside from that initial CES announcement. And since then, a lot of these competitors have popped up: Parsec, Blade, Liquid Sky. So I wouldn't be surprised if when it officially goes live, there's some tweaks to that.
Seems like the one thing that NVIDIA could offer, though, is like a commitment to give you the latest and greatest GPUs. Because, I mean, you don't really see that from the other guys necessarily. I mean, there's if NVIDIA said, hey, we announced the Titan, whatever it might be, and then we're going to give it to you instantly within a month's time or something like that, that would be interesting. You can't buy a Titan. We'll give you in cloud. We'll give you part of GeForce Now.
Are you really getting a whole
That's
dedicated GPU too on AWS, or is it sort of a virtualized GPU?
No, you're getting the whole thing. Yeah, you're not sharing it.
Dirk,
GeForce Now jumps through hoops to make sure you can't check your hardware.
Yeah.
But I was able to look it up in some games, and it turns out I think it was a Tesla with 24 gigabytes of RAM.
Okay, well that's worth the $35 a month, right?
Dirk Rezo over on Twitch is wondering how much you guys think GeForce Now should be.
$1 an hour.
Yeah, I could see that. I could honestly see
For 1080?
I'm not sure. $25 for 10 hours of GTX 1080 seems like a lot.
$1 an hour,
especially when you have to bring your own games.
Yeah, I could see different plans.
Yeah, exactly.
Because some people, like I'm at work and I'm going to go in a conference room and I'm going to just like hide from my boss and play video games on my Ultrabook. I'm not going to do that. I'm only going to do it once in a while. So I just kind of once hourly, and then maybe for somebody who truly doesn't have a gaming PC.
Yeah, I mean, $1 an hour makes sense, but I think you should have some sort of bulk plan where you buy like at least a bundle of stuff. So.
Yeah, I gotta say I don't know if it's really sustainable, because I mean that's the one problem is it's one GPU eating a crap load of power for hours a day, and it's one per user. Well, how do you get away from that?
Yeah, that's what killed OnLive to begin with.
Yeah, scaling.
Exactly, scaling. Yeah, the fact that you had a dedicated machine, and if you didn't use it, it just sort of sat there idly, or at least that was the idea. I don't know. I'm not really sure. The back-end server growers probably would know better than I would.
Yeah.
I think that's the advantage that NVIDIA has, because they run their own servers with their own graphics card hardware. They can make sure you get a good experience, and something that you won't get with OnLive or through AWS necessarily.
And they can get the cards.
Right? Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I bet even Amazon and all those people that are like sourcing GPUs, it probably is not fun. They're by Quadros, but God, are they even doing mining on Quadros or no? Because it's just not it's not cost effective.
I highly doubt it.
So maybe that's untouched.
Maybe if that's all you can buy. So I haven't really been chiming in on the chat, and that's because almost everyone thinks this is horrible.
What?
Because of latency or bandwidth, or data caps on their service. I mean, almost everyone in here is like, nah, this is dumb. This will never take off.
That is the question about data caps. We haven't. I don't know. I don't know. Have you measured how much data you have? I tried to do that, and I haven't quite been able to do that yet.
But it's just like watching a Netflix stream, a badly compressed Netflix
1080p,
stream. So not really. It's like you watch YouTube. You watch a really nice YouTube. It's the same thing.
I mean, but there's some people who can't, I mean,
so that's
especially, we have some people watching in the stream, that have to do it at like 360p or whatever,
No, but I would agree. That's why for me, I'm always going to prefer, and I think for most of us, we're going to want a local. The PC is never going to die. We're always going to want our powerful gaming.
If you've got it, sure.
You got a local. That's the way to go. It's the cheapest way to go, honestly, versus this. But there are people who don't do it, and and again, it is my son spent a day at my father-in-law's house. I installed GeForce Now on his Sandy Bridge Dell all-in-one that was ancient, right? POS, and he was playing Rainbow Six on there for a couple hours. So, and he didn't complain about it. He's like, wow, that's actually not bad. So
yeah, I mean, I don't own a fancy gaming PC, and I just haven't for several years because I have a wife and kids, and
you gotta
I have
make
a budget,
time, Mark.
and yeah, exactly. And but I mean, I have an Xbox and I game on that, and I know, no, because it's there. I have an Xbox One X, and I that provides a satisfactory solution for me. But I mean, that's the idea, right? Because I don't have enough money to go out and buy a gaming PC, so I might be willing to go ahead and invest in something.
I mean, there has been a couple people in the chat say they would rather go out and get a console than do cloud gaming.
Yeah,
it's the same with everything, right? Yeah. It's whether or not you trust other people's computers,
That's right. Yeah,
and whether it's worth it to you. But imagine if they do get this to $1 an hour for 1080p 60 frames per second high, which is GTX 1060 levels. And you join up a Steam sale and you get 10 games for $60. And then you have this, you don't have to invest in a console, you don't have to invest in graphics hardware. you're in a place where you have a reliable internet connection, I mean, it could make sense, especially if you have laptops like the Surface laptop or whatever MacBook Gordon's using.
Or exactly. I mean, what was it? Last year's CES, you saw Geforce Now come out on Macs, and I think I don't know. I don't know, too many people who use it, but I would imagine that's a bigger market than actual PC gamers like us
for that captive market.
Yeah. But who knows?
Yeah, I think it's no coincidence that Geforce Now, this version of it, actually launched in beta last year, but it launched first on Macs because I think NVIDIA probably thinks the same way.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see how well it's done on Macs.
Well, especially with Apple, kind of being in bed with AMD. Maybe they're trying to hitch their bets. I don't who knows.
Well, and then it is an audience that they don't know what gaming is like. Frankly, I mean, I'm sorry, but they don't. It very much. I can't imagine what it's like, to like actually see a PC game, not some, port of a 5 or 6 year old game converted over to Mac OS, and you're now playing, a brand new, AAA title game on your Mac. That
I was playing Witcher 3 at CES last year.
Yeah.
On a Mac, MacBook Air.
It's pretty much like when they go to that every movie scene where they let the prisoner out of the box. Mark never hear. This joke never gets too old for me. They get that, they let them out and they come out in the sunlight. It's like, oh my God, what is this? I've been in that box forever. Yeah, that's what it's like for Mac gamers.
The opening of Fallout 3.
Is that it? Oh, okay.
Yeah, right. Exactly. That's right.
But for the people who think, hey, no way, never, this is crap, it's not going to work for me. That might be the case if you have slower internet connection or whatever. I'm telling you, I have basic Comcast, like the cheapest home internet that they offer. That's not dial-up, basically. And I just have the Comcast router. And this is free to sign up for and try. Give it a shot.
Yeah.
And if you get in, give it a shot. Because this is the first one that I'm pleasantly surprised by.
Yeah. I don't think either Shadow or Parsec offer a free trial. I could be wrong on that, too.
They should.
They should. Yeah. Although, I don't know, with configuration, it might not be worth it, especially because if people just don't sign up for it. But if they did, I think it would be a great thing for people to try out.
Or if you're like, hey, you try a free trial, but you're only limited to specific games. I mean, almost everyone's playing Fortnite or Battlegrounds or something.
Because I mean, it's essentially free. You just put Fortnite on there and let people try it out for themselves.
So you just sign in and boom, it's I could see that. I could see that.
Makes sense.
Yeah, and again, it's really come a long way. It is pleasantly, for what it is, not bad. But yeah, I mean, it looks like hell, right? Everything is compressed, very low res. It's like that, sometimes it's like, when you start a new Netflix stream or YouTube stream and it's just blurry as hell.
Yeah, exactly.
For like 30 seconds.
Mine wasn't that bad at all.
Well, when it first
definitely
cranks
some
up.
compression, some jaggy edges and stuff. And during peak hours, like text got a little bit jaggy.
Yeah.
But in general, I had a very clean picture. I mean, you could tell there was some compression going on, but maybe that's because you guys are in San Francisco and I'm not.
Yeah, that might be.
Well, I just compare it to, looking at a beautiful, crisp, 2160p image on a PC versus this. There's no comparison. So
nope.
But at the same time, you're running it on, an Ultrabook, so not bad.
We'll
we got any questions we need to clear from we're about that time where we turn into pumpkins.
Yeah, we should probably wrap it up. I don't think we'll do a dedicated Q&A at this point, but yeah, let's wrap it up and tell people where they can go to check out Windows coverage.
Oh, I have to see. I don't know where the outro is.
Hey, you got you know it. You know it by heart.
I don't know if okay. Check back for it. I'm going to work on this again. Check back in 2 weeks for your fix of PC news, hardware, software, gaming on the Full Nerd. Subscribe to us on iTunes and leave a review every time you do. AMD and Intel add free cores to their CPUs. I'm lying. Also, Stitcher, Google Play. If you want to send us an email or a fax, send it to thefullnerd@PCWorld.com. No, I got that wrong.
Full Nerd Podcast.
No. See, you don't know either.
Actually, I don't know.
Hopefully, John is not watching. thefullnerd@PCWorld.com.
Yes, there it is.
Send us feedback. We will read your emails, answer your questions there. Thanks for coming. I'm Gordon Mong. Brad Charkis.
Geforce Now will be your savior when Microsoft gets rid of desktop support in Windows.
Oh.
Eat paper.
No, I don't know, but how are you going to install the Geforce Now client? See? Mark Hockman and Adam Patrick Murray will take us out.
Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll see you next time.